little friends. I'm Bunny Doo. Do you love fairy tales as much as I do? Then let's get started. Today, we are going to read the fairy tale, Puss in Boots. If you like the story, little friends, maybe join my channel. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived an old miller in a big, creaky old windmill. The miller had 3 sons. Every morning, they woke up together, ground flour at the mill, and worked in the fields. Their days were full of joy and laughter. As time passed, the miller grew weaker and could no longer work. So he decided to share what he owned among his 3 sons. He loved them very much and wanted to be fair. He thought about it for many days. He gave the mill to his eldest son and the field to the middle one. When it was the youngest son's turn, everyone wondered what he would get. The miller gave him his cat, the one that never left his side. The youngest son was sad, but he didn't want to show it to his father.
Just a cat? What am I going to do with a cat?
But this wasn't an ordinary cat. It was very clever. When the cat saw that his new master was sad, it wagged its tail and said excitedly,
"Don't worry, sir. If you give me a hat, a pair of boots, and a sack, I can make you rich."
The young man was very surprised, even though he didn't really believe it. He bought the cat a hat, a pair of boots, and a sack. The cat put on the hat, wore the shiny boots, and smiled proudly, wagging its tail. He was ready to go on an adventure. He slung the sack over his shoulder and walked into the forest. The forest was full of singing birds and rustling leaves. After a while, he saw a little rabbit on the road. The rabbit looked scared, but Puss in Boots gently approached.
Don't be afraid, my little friend. I won't hurt you. Come with me to the castle. Maybe we'll find some carrots for you.
The rabbit was nervous at first, but the cat's kind eyes made it feel safe. Hop! It jumped right into the sack. Puss in Boots threw the sack over his shoulder and headed to the castle. After a while, he reached the big castle gates and told the guards he wanted to see the king. Curious about this funny little visitor, the king agreed to meet him.
Tell me, little cat, why do you want to see me?
My king, this gift comes from the great Lord Carabas.
Of course! The great Lord Carabas was just a name the cat made up. It sounded very fancy. The cat wanted his new master to seem important. The king was delighted when he saw the rabbit, believing it was a gift from a noble man.
What a wonderful gift! Lord Carabas must be a very kind man.
In the days that followed, Puss in Boots kept bringing more gifts to the castle, all in the name of the great Lord Carabas. With every gift, the king's admiration grew. He became very curious about this noble man. One day, the cat learned that the king and the princess were going for a carriage ride by the river. He ran to his master right away.
Sir, the king will pass by here soon. Quick, go into the river and hide your clothes. Do as I say and you'll become a rich man.
The young man didn't understand why, but he trusted the cat and stepped into the river to swim. Just then, the sound of the king's carriage could be heard. Puss in Boots started shouting.
Help! castle, Lord Carabas is drowning. Thieves have stolen his clothes.
Guards, quick, save him and bring him fine new clothes.
The guards pulled the young man from the water and dressed him in beautiful, shiny clothes. He looked just like a prince. The princess couldn't stop looking at him, and they greeted each other politely. The young man thought, "What a beautiful girl!" The king was very pleased to meet Lord Carabas and invited him into his carriage. Meanwhile, Puss in Boots ran ahead, visiting the farmers working in the fields along the road.
The king will pass by soon. When he asks whose lands these are, tell him they belong to Lord Carabas. I'll give you shiny gold coins.
Everywhere they went, the people said, "These lands belong to Lord Carabas." The king was amazed.
Wow, you have so much land.
Thank you, my king. These lands once belonged to my father.
At the end of the road, they saw a huge castle. But this castle belonged to a giant. Puss in Boots ran ahead of everyone and slipped past the servants to find the giant himself.
My name is Puss in Boots. I heard there's a very ugly giant living here. I wanted to see him with my own eyes. Is that you?
Ugly? Aren't you afraid of me, little cat?
Oh, everyone must be afraid of you. But you're not ugly at all. You're amazing. I also heard you can turn into any creature you want. Can you really turn into a mouse?
Flattered by the cat's words, the giant laughed and turned himself into a tiny mouse. At that moment, Puss in Boots jumped and, pouts, caught the mouse. The servants, who had been watching in shock, were overjoyed to be free from the giant.
This castle now belongs to Lord Carabas. You are all his servants.
Just as the cat finished speaking, the king and his companions arrived at the castle.
What a beautiful castle. Who does it belong to?
This castle belongs to Lord Carabas, my king.
The servants all said together that the castle belonged to Lord Carabas. A great feast was held that evening. The next day, Lord Carabas asked the king if he could marry the princess. They had a wonderful wedding in the giant's castle. From that day on, the princess, the young man, and Puss in Boots lived happily together. The castle was always full of joy, and the sound of the cat's boots echoed through its halls. 3 magic apples fell from the sky. One for those whose hearts are full of love, one for those who follow their dreams, and one for the little friends listening to this story. See you again next time for another magical tale.